The Obama administration watching this morning's inauguration ceremony in Kabul very closely. The president explained why yesterday.
We also have to make sure that we've got an effective partner in Afghanistan. And that's something that we are examining very closely and presenting some very clear benchmarks for the Afghan government.
Joining us to talk more on whether Afghanistan is an effective partner, Hillary Mann-Leverett, a former State Department staffer who dealt with Afghanistan for many years, and Simon Denyer, who covered South Asia for 7 years for Reuters and now is Reuters D.C. bureau chief. Good to see both of you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, Hillary, let me begin with you because, the question of the legitimacy of this president has weighed heavily. Now he was sworn in. That supposedly really should cement any of those questions, but does it really? Is there going to be a prolonged question of legitimacy for that administration?
I think absolutely there will be a prolonged question of legitimacy. We are in denial when it comes to Hamid Karzai. Hamid Karzai became head of state in Afghanistan for no other reason than the U.S. military put him there at the end of 2001. He has been able to stay in power because of his alliance with warlords, drug traffickers, religious chiefs, tribal chiefs, and that's what he's going to continue to do. The idea that he's going to have some popular, democratically stamped legitimacy is, I think, an unfortunate delusion on our part.
So if there is indeed that relationship with these warlords, with some tolerance of the Taliban insurgency, then might this be his opportunity, Karzai's opportunity, to wield that power and actually promote some change so that people will feel a bit more confident about his presidency?
Karzai is not about change. Karzai is the ultimate compromise candidate. That's why the U.S. decided on him in 2001, and that's why he stayed in power, because he can make deals and get along with warlords, Islamists, drug traffickers, and even the United States to some extent. But he is not about change. He's not going to make change. And if we put our policy on a bet that he's going to change Afghanistan, we are in for some serious trouble.
So, Simon, at this juncture, a compromised president, is that what Afghanistan needs? Is that why this country might be better off with a Karzai as opposed to his opponent, Abdullah?
Well, I think, look, Hillary made some very good points about the effectiveness of President Karzai. Look what happened around the election. The West went to Karzai and said, we need you to hold a credible runoff election. He said reluctantly, oh, I'll hold a runoff, but forgot the word credible. He failed to clean out the election commission. He called the West bluff, effectively. He did just enough to keep them off his back, but not enough to actually change anything about the way the election was going to be held. And we saw the result. We saw no runoff at all and the opposition candidate pulling out, and a government now that really doesn't have legitimacy in the eyes of the Afghan people. So to expect Karzai to seriously address corruption, well, I'd like to be wrong. It would be nice to think that the words that he said in the inauguration speech actually mean something, but we've heard those words before, and I think Hillary Clinton herself, expressed some doubt and some skepticism that we're really seeing a commitment, a serious commitment to tackle corruption.
Is it your view that the Afghan people feel so powerless that they almost feel like it doesn't matter whether Karzai is a legitimate president or not, that they feel like they have no other options in the first place? Simon?
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. But Afghans have the same view of democracy if they feel an election's been taken away from them as people in the West would have. They feel if they feel cheated, they're not going to cooperate, and they're not going to get along with this government, and they're not going to support the people who are supporting the government.
So
and by that I mean the Western American troops.
Isn't the U.S. and other Western countries, Afghanistan's allies right now, going to place demands on Karzai, legitimate? The argument of legitimacy or not, place demands on this presidency to say, you know what, we have to see change, even though, Hillary, I know you've already said he's not a president of change. Is this an opportunity, or is this the moment in which we will see a change in Karzai, a change in his cabinet?
I don't think so. I think one of his first choices when he was a candidate in this past election was to select as his first vice president someone named General Mohammed Fahim, who is one of the most brutal warlords, a known drug trafficker in Afghanistan. He's the first vice president. So whoever Karzai picks for his cabinet, it's an afterthought at this point. Between Karzai and General Fahim, I think the state is set. Karzai is not going to make any changes. I think in his inauguration speech, we have focused so much on that he said some, magic words about narcotics and corruption, but what he really said was that he wants U.S. troops out as soon as possible, within 5 years, and that the main element for him is unity in Afghanistan. Unity in Afghanistan means continuing to work with warlords, narcotics traffickers, Islamists, militants, and the Taliban.
So, Simon, how might that influence this president, the President of the United States' decision about sending more troops to Afghanistan?
Well, look, General McChrystal's report was a brilliant report. It summed up the situation really well. But what McChrystal said was that to focus on force alone is to miss the point. That unless you solve the crisis of confidence in the government, the effort is doomed to failure. So sending 40,000 more troops while the development effort is in such a mess, while the political process is in such a mess, while there are credible reports that Pakistan is still aiding the Taliban, that's like building a chair with one leg. It's going to fall over. So I think President Obama, the debate needs to be on those other legs as well. Can the West make development really work in Afghanistan to bring economic development, to bring prosperity, to end poverty to the Afghan people? So those questions are very, very difficult questions to answer, and I think that should be a large part of the focus of President Obama's decision.
Simon Denyer, Hillary Mann Leverett, thanks so much to both of you this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you.